Good evening, Tallahassee, and welcome to FSU Weather. I'm student meteorologist Brittany Bowman.
And I'm student meteorologist Brantley Kite.
And we certainly have a lot to talk about, especially with the tropics, but of course for the Tallahassee area, but we definitely have a lot going on considering it's the peak of hurricane season.
Yeah, luckily we're not in any threat right now. This time 1 year ago, we were under a tropical threat with Irma making landfall today just last year, but now it's a different area of the United States that's seeing a threat from the tropics.
Yeah, areas from the East Coast, such as the Carolinas, definitely have things to worry about. And also our friends over in the Pacific, over in Hawaii, have some things to worry about with some hurricane activity.
Yeah, we have hurricanes and tropical storms in both the Atlantic Basin and the Pacific right now, so we are watching a lot of areas as the tropics do heat up. It is the peak of hurricane season, so we're keeping an eye on all those things down there, and also the local weather. Some rain is in the forecast for tomorrow and the next day, so we're going to keep a track on that there as well.
Yeah, we definitely have our just typical sea breeze pattern going on, some showers and storms in the afternoon, and that's going to continue over the next couple of weeks until we start to get that fall weather, but we're still a ways from that.
Yeah, we're still a little ways away from our first big cold front coming through, more of like a cool front too. We're not going to see temperatures really get very cold here for at least a month or so, but we could see some drier air start to filter into the area in the next few weeks, so that is some good news there. Otherwise, it's going to be very hot and muggy for the next several days.
Yeah, other than that, we're going to send it over to Michael, who's going to give us a look at our overview.
Thanks, Brittany and Brantley. Let's start off with our current conditions right now. It's 89 degrees, mostly cloudy skies near the airport. And we do have the southwest wind still giving in some of that very high moisture off the Gulf. Now, satellite and radar shows you the typical sea breeze, showers, and thunderstorms right along our coastline this afternoon. These storms are actually dissipating as we speak, and they'll continue to dissipate as we head into the nighttime hours. Now, going out of our local region, you can see we have the remnants of a stalled out front basically across the southeast, just north and west of our region, giving a lot of rain to southern Texas. And then we also have this tropical disturbance we're watching down towards the Yucatan Peninsula, which is going to head up to Houston as we head into the weekend. Now, for tonight's forecast, 74 degrees will be our low. Some showers and thunderstorms are possible before sunset, but they are dying down as we speak, as you saw by the satellite and radar. Again, the tropics is the main story this week, with Florence heading towards the Carolinas, Isaac heading towards the Leeward Islands, and then Helene, thankfully, heading out to sea. We'll get more into that into our show tonight. With major Hurricane Florence heading toward the U.S., we also have some tropical activity in Hawaii. But locally, not much to speak about other than our typical sea breeze pattern. Now let's hand it off to Brantley with a look at Florence.
All right, thanks, Michael. We are watching Hurricane Florence right now in the Atlantic. It is a Category 4 hurricane at this time, so we are keeping track of that. Winds right now up to about 140 miles per hour in that hurricane as it moves towards the East Coast there. We have hurricane watches and warnings not up quite yet, but we expect them to be issued any moment now as this storm does get closer to the coast. So a Category 4 hurricane expected to maintain its strength there as it gets close to North Carolina, possibly weakening to a Category 3 after it slows down quite a bit there close to the coast. So unfortunately, this storm will slow down once it gets towards the coastal areas there, but it will keep its strength for quite some time as it gets farther inland, bringing lots of heavy rain there for the coast. Timing things out, we have 150 mile per hour winds expected by late tonight or early tomorrow morning, and then maintaining those winds as it gets up to the coast there, Category 4 or 3 as it makes landfall early on Friday morning. Our computer models, we have just one computer model that's an outlier over here, kind of taking things off out there into the Atlantic. Otherwise, a pretty good consensus here going along the border there of North Carolina and South Carolina. So we're keeping those people, we're keeping a watch on those people right now. Wind field could be very large with this storm. We expect the impacts to be hundreds of miles away from the center of the storm. We could see tropical storm force winds across the entire North Carolina coast there, extending into parts of Virginia and South Carolina as well, with the main winds going to be closer to the center there, of course, with the eye wall. So we could see potentially very high winds, but the main threat in this storm is going to be the storm surge and flooding. Lots of water being pushed onshore from this storm. So storm surge could be very high in some places there, with lots of flooding. Our satellite image does look very healthy for this storm right now. A nice eye right there as the storm gets over very warm waters, also producing pretty high waves as well, seeing waves as high as 30-something feet in some places there. The water nice and warm too, so that's going to help fuel the storm. We're going to keep seeing the temperatures, the warm temperatures as this goes closer to North Carolina there, so lots of fuel for the storm ahead. Nothing really to slow it down from strengthening anymore. Our rainfall forecast for the next several days there, up to 20 inches of rain in some places for North Carolina. And again, the storm impact could be far away from the center. We are seeing heavy rain totals all the way up into Virginia there, up to 10 inches in some places. Even farther inland, they could see anywhere from 5, 6 to 7 inches of rain there along the coast. If you're on the left side of the storm, a little bit less rain there. So we do see a pretty sharp cutoff here in South Carolina where the rain will be a little bit less as the storm moves inland. So the right side of the storm definitely getting the majority of the rain there. Now we're going to take it over to Colby with a look at our local weather.
Okay, thanks, Brantley. I'm really glad we're not having to deal with what they're having to deal with there on the Carolina coastline and into Virginia. That time lapse there at St. George Island, you can see we remained overcast throughout the day. We had some showers that have tried to develop along I-10. Those have started to dissipate. The majority of the activity staying well off to our west into portions of Texas and into Louisiana back toward New Orleans there. Some convection. We got some rain and thunderstorm activity start heading into Jackson there into Mississippi, bringing things a lot closer in though across the Big Bend. We had some shower and thunderstorm activity over toward Panama City, back toward East Point there. Back towards Cyprus, all this is starting to move predominantly north and back off to the west. So we're not dealing with that locally. We've had some showers that tried to pop off right to the south of town around the Woodville area, but those have since dissipated, and we'll continue that trend as we go into those nighttime hours. We're sitting at a very warm 89 degrees for this time of the year. Winds out of the southwest there at 6 miles per hour, so mostly cloudy skies. Had the clouds filtered through that. We were in the 90s earlier, so that's definitely a welcome sight to have a little bit of cooling there from the cloud cover. 89, Tallahassee. Get up to that, Highway 84 corridor in South Georgia. Look at that, low 90s. 91 Valdosta. We start that off to the west, Thomasville 90, and so same 90 there in Bainbridge. So very uncomfortable temperatures across the southern counties of Georgia there. Dew point values, a lot of moisture content in the air right now. 77 down in Apalachicola. They've had a lot of nice onshore flow that they've been seeing out of the Gulf of Mexico, making things feel very uncomfortable. 75 here in Tallahassee, so we're right behind them. 76 there in Perry. A little bit drier up into Bainbridge at 70, but still a lot of moisture that we're dealing with in the atmosphere. And that translates into these real field temperatures and these heat index values. We're pushing the century mark almost in Tallahassee, and they've eclipsed it there in Perry at 102. So definitely want to get those rest cycles and definitely stay hydrated even as we go into those evening hours. And the wind speed and directional, see all that moisture coming, that onshore flow coming out of the Gulf of Mexico. St. Mark's there, bringing it up out of the south there at 9 miles per hour. 4 mile per hour wind there out of Apalachicola, so plenty of moisture all across the area, and that's coming right on shore there. 5 mile per hour wind here in Tallahassee. Locally, if you're heading off to the beach tomorrow, it's going to feel real great there, low 90s, even as we're into September now. That water temperature, not the bath water that we're seeing out around the Gulf Stream where Florence is heading with the 87 degrees, but we're going to got about 82 there if you're at Apalachicola. Very comfortable there. Definitely have the sunscreen handy as we'll be in the UV index right there and high. Light chop possible as you're planning your day. Start in the morning, maybe we're walking the dog, getting the kids to school, 75 degrees there, and by lunch we're already in the mid-80s, so warming up very fast there, and then low 90s there into the afternoon hours. Chance of a shower, thunderstorm tonight, 74 degrees. Possible showers and storms, especially before 8 o'clock, but we'll watch that there through that future cast. You see possible showers and storms, but things really starting to clear out as we go into the nighttime hours. Overnight, few passing clouds, not much to worry about. We start the morning, same deal. A few clouds passing by, and then bam, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, you have those showers and storms pop up along the I-10 corridor, and those will start to dissipate as we go into the nighttime hours for your Wednesday. And then for that 7-day forecast, looking real nice there. Low 90s for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. We'll keep the sea breeze active there as we go into your weekend. We'll sit in the low 90s as well there, so we're still in this summer sea breeze pattern. And now I'm going to hand things off to Brittany and Michael at the desk.
Thanks, Colby. So since we do broadcast on YouTube, we do have a lot of viewers out in the Carolinas, and we've been getting a lot of questions over the last few days in terms of how they're going to be impacted by Florence.
Yeah, a lot of friends, family, and as you said, people who are following us on social media have had a lot of questions. There's been a lot of confusion and just things that people really need to know.
Yeah, so we're going to start off with two people from Raleigh, Phil Mickelson Tracker and Tiffany Scott. Phil Mickelson Tracker lives in Apex and Tiffany Scott lives in Lillington, and they're wondering the impacts they'll get from Florence in terms of rainfall and winds.
So they're probably around maybe 2 hours inland from the coast, so storm surge may not be that big of an issue, but they're definitely in for that rainfall and definitely in for some strong winds. So they need to be prepared for just high amounts of rain and possible some damaging winds over in their area.
Yep. Yeah, so going on to some other questions.
We've also had some questions from more up north in the northeastern part of the United States. Justin M. Carmen from southeast Pennsylvania around the Lancaster area, and also Lorene Gumina, who lives in New Jersey. They're wondering about their effects because they're thinking back to Hurricane Sandy because they've had some miscommunications and they're just confused about what kind of effects they'll feel up north.
Yeah, so especially along the New Jersey coastline, you are expecting some rip currents and some high surge because this is such a large system. And then as we go inland into Philadelphia, yeah, they're not going to get much rain from the system, maybe 1 to 3 inches at most. But they got a lot of rain over the past weekend from the remnants of Gordon. Very saturated ground up there, so it doesn't take much rainfall to get some flooding concerns once again up towards the Philadelphia region. Yeah, moving on to our another question, Travis. His aunt and cousin live up in Jacksonville, North Carolina, and Wilmington, North Carolina, and so he was wondering about the impacts they will get from Florence.
Now, they're not too far off from the coast, and they also have a river going through Jacksonville, North Carolina. So storm surge is definitely an issue over there. Definitely want to pay attention to those evacuation zones and what zone you're in, and if you need to evacuate. And other than that, the rainfall, the wind, definitely going to be huge impacts over there.
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have enough time to answer all of your questions, but we are going to answer all of your questions over the next few days. Let's send it off to Colby once again with our national forecast.
Hey, thank you guys. And that's some really important information and tips that you provided there at the desk. This is a viewer video sent in from Tiffany Scott. Now this was right outside of Raleigh, North Carolina. This is from last night, and you can start to see already we're having the gas lines, people making preparation before Florence there, and they're already starting to try to stock up gas. People are really starting to take those precautions and those evacuation routes very seriously, as they should. Temperatures across the nation, 80 degrees in Kansas City, 79 in Dallas, Fort Worth, a strong raging pattern in the desert southwest, 87 there in Albuquerque as we go up I-25 into Denver, sitting at 88 degrees. Next, low pressure system into the Pacific Northwest, keeping things very cool in Seattle. They're at 64 degrees. Those dew point values. We've got a front stationed across the center portion of the country and allowing a lot of moisture to come up out of the Gulf of Mexico. That's where you can see all those dew point values in the 60s and 70s there. So you head out toward the west, 29, very dry air there in Salt Lake City. That's their dew point there. And then 33 over in Denver as well. So very dry conditions out in that portion of the country. Satellite radar, you can really start to see where that boundary is there across portions of the Mid-Atlantic states and then stretching back into the Arklatex. Then as we get into the Central Plains, things clear out. We go back into the Rocky Mountain West. We start to have some convection there popping up from Denver back down toward Colorado Springs and in toward Santa Fe. That's all. This is afternoon convection that we see from the topography. Next system coming in from the Pacific Northwest there, Seattle, bringing them some precipitation there and into portions of Portland there. That's reacting with the Cascades, keeping things very active for them in the Northwest. And this is really not what we want to see ahead of Florence. And this is a lot of precipitation that we're seeing into the Northeast and then back into the Mid-Atlantic states, and that's associated with that front I was talking about, and that's really not a good sight. Anytime we start to see rain start to pile up ahead of a tropical system, not a good situation there. As we bring things back into the southeast, from Houston down I-10 back toward New Orleans, we're starting to have showers and thunderstorms prevalent there, and the flood watches and warnings already starting to be issued. Flood watch there around Bristol, Virginia, and then we have a barrage of flood warnings from the nation's capital. Starting to see some activity there, a flood warning there around Savannah, so not good ahead of Florence. Speaking of Florence, a major hurricane right now in the Atlantic, making a beeline toward the Carolinas, a Category 4 winds of 140 miles per hour. But something we want to forget about is Tropical Storm Olivia. And with Florence, we haven't talked much about Olivia, but Olivia is actually going to be moving in some locations, the island of Oahu, that actually saw rainfall amounts pushing 50 inches there. So not a good sight there. That's a tropical storm winds of only 60 miles per hour, but a lot of rain there, and that's not a good situation. Tropical storm warnings for all the islands there, and possible general thunderstorms across the southeast and into marginal risk there into North Dakota. For tonight, we'll drop down to 49 degrees there in Billings, 53 in Seattle. Things are warming up as we head back into the southeast, and then tomorrow, pretty much what we saw today. We'll see those temperatures get into the low 90s there in Denver, and then back into the southeast will be in the upper 80s, low 90s. Now I'm going to hand things off to Brantley. We're going to take a look at local.
Thanks, Colby. We're going to take a look here at a zoomed-in look of our local weather. Our Panama City campus there, our satellite campus. Here's a time lapse of it. We see some clouds blowing up there with a few afternoon thunderstorms popping up and then moving inland. That's thanks to a sea breeze front that we saw earlier today. Much more active there for the Florida Panhandle versus the Big Bend region here. So not as much rain for us, but still some pop-up showers. Down to about 89 degrees right now in Tallahassee with mostly cloudy skies. We'll see a few of clouds pass through late tonight, but otherwise looking at some clear conditions later on. Temperatures generally in the mid to upper 80s for the Big Bend, with a few spots still in the 90s though. Those temperatures will cool off tonight to the lower 70s. Dew points also very high. A lot of moisture in the air, so the air is feeling very damp. We're seeing dew points as high as 77 down in Apalachicola, 76 over in Perry, and 75 right here in Tallahassee. So very damp, uncomfortable air out there, and it's going to stay that way for a little while here. Our heat index very high because of all that moisture, up to 99 degrees is what it feels like outside in Tallahassee, 102 in Perry. So very hot right now thanks to all that extra humidity. It's feeling very warm out there. All of this moisture though is thanks to our sea breeze coming out of the south off the Gulf there. St. Mark's seeing a southeast wind about 9 miles per hour, and then over in Apalachicola only at 4 miles per hour, but they're still seeing all that moisture coming off the Gulf there again with that sea breeze coming in. Our sea breeze storms, we saw them fire up earlier today, and they are already starting to die out some, and some of them moving a little bit farther inland there. We'll see those storms start to die out later on tonight as we lose some of our daytime heating that's helping fuel those storms. Tonight, lows dropping into the lower 70s for places in Georgia, mid 70s for Tallahassee and the coast there, about 73 tonight for Tallahassee, 74 for St. Mark's and Apalachicola. Tomorrow, the heat returns back up to 92 degrees, and the heat index will be back up to it. So even though it says 92, it's going to feel as hot as 105 in some locations of the Big Bend tomorrow. So very warm tomorrow with only a 50% chance that an afternoon shower will cool us off. Timing out our rain chances, we see a few clouds passing through early tomorrow morning, and then by the afternoon, we will see those scattered storms start to pop back up. Some of these storms could have some heavy rain at times and frequent lightning, so we'll keep an eye on those throughout the day tomorrow. We'll check out our social media there as we track those. Tomorrow, 50% chance of rain for Tallahassee, and then 40% on Thursday. As we get later on into the week, when Florence makes landfall in the southeast along North Carolina's coast, we'll actually see our rain chances go back down a little bit as we're on the backside of that counterclockwise flow. So we will have rain chances a little bit lower as we get closer to the weekend.
Well, I know that's definitely going to have an impact on a lot of sporting events this weekend in those locations, and we don't have a home game here this weekend. I know the
weather's looking great for this weekend, and this is the one weekend we don't have a home game.
Yes.
So yeah, so things are looking pretty active in the tropics right now. And the last time we saw 3 named storms, well, it was this time last year. We had Hurricane Irma hitting the Florida coast.
Yeah, so I mean, glad we're not dealing with that here, but definitely our thoughts and prayers are with our friends and family and viewers that are definitely in the Carolinas right now. So yeah. And, we're going to talk more about the preparedness tips. I know
exactly. You know, this time last year we had 3 named storms, and again this year we had 3 named storms, and this is still considered a below average season. So we're really emphasizing that it just takes one storm to really make an impact on your community, and that's why you should be prepared every hurricane season, no matter what the outlook is.
Yeah, and I really think that I've seen a lot of good positive things on social media, people getting ready, taking precautions several days in advance, not waiting to the last minute. I think definitely a good job.
Yeah, that's good. We also have noted that a lot of our leaders and the government have been very proactive with this too. The governors in several states declaring a state of emergency very early on because of the forecast. Also ordering evacuations very early on too to help get things going there as we get prepared for this storm.
Yeah, definitely important to alleviate the process of getting people out of danger and away from the coast with a system like Florence. I know we always see things with the wind, and we'll see 140 mile per hour, 130 mile per hour winds, but I mean, really, the wind is not really what our concern, but all that rainfall, and then we've seen some model data that's showing it could stall for a couple days there in the Carolinas. So.
Yeah, unfortunately, that storm is going to slow down, bring a lot of heavy rain, and keep that water flowing onshore. The #1 threat in any hurricane or tropical storm is water. So the wind is what a lot of people like to focus on. That's where the categories come from. Category 3, 4, 5, those are all based off of the wind speed, but the water is the main threat. It's what takes the most lives in every tropical system. So that's what people need to watch out for.
Yeah, we'll definitely need to watch Florence as even if we go into Sunday and even Monday as this system will set in the mid-Atlantic states. Definitely going to be a very big issue for flooding, I'm afraid.
Yeah, absolutely. In addition to Florence, we're also watching Helene, Isaac, a new system going into the Gulf of Mexico right now. And we're watching out for our friends in Hawaii. Brittany has more on that at the wall.
Tropics, tropics, tropics. We've been talking about it all show, so let's finally dig in deep into each storm. Here's a look at the Atlantic Basin, and you can see Florence off moving west-northwest towards the United States. As we head over more towards the east of the Atlantic Ocean, you can see Tropical Storm Isaac over heading towards the west, possibly flecking those Leeward Islands shortly within the next couple days. And lastly, we have Helene that shouldn't be affecting the United States. So Hurricane Florence, currently a Category 4 hurricane at winds 104 miles per hour, taking that west-northwest track at 17 miles per hour. It's moving fairly quickly, but the bad news is as it approaches the east coast, it's going to start to slow down, which is going to make those rainfall totals very high around the Carolinas. Here's a look at those models. They're in fairly good agreement until you get a couple hundred miles off the shore, so that exact landfall is still uncertain, but we're going to continue to track that as we move through the next couple days. Here's those rainfall totals, over 20 inches off the coast, parts of the North Carolina coast, and heading well inland into Virginia, up to 15 inches, and even 7 to 10 inches expected in parts of West Virginia, North Carolina, and South Carolina. Rainfall is going to be a big story. Now let's move over to Hawaii for Tropical Storm Olivia. Winds currently at 60 miles per hour. Expected to feel impacts possibly very late Tuesday night into early Wednesday morning. It's expected to stay a tropical storm, but rainfall again is a big story here. With Hurricane Lane, they received a lot of rain, 30 to 50 inches in some spots. So this is going to be another rainmaker, moving west at 17 miles per hour. So rainfall, another big story for Tropical Storm Olivia. As we move into the next system, Hurricane Isaac, currently in the Atlantic, moving towards the Leeward Islands, and as we go into the next couple of days, it's going to continue that west track as a tropical storm, staying south, the projected path right now of the island of Hispaniola, Puerto Rico, and Cuba. And the models are in pretty good agreement. There's one model that wants to take it just north of Puerto Rico, but a majority of the models are going to keep it south of those islands. Lastly, our last hurricane, Hurricane Helene, way off in the Atlantic. That's actually Africa behind me, so nowhere near the United States. Category 2 hurricane expected to weaken into that tropical storm and move off north into the Atlantic. Lastly, we do have another disturbance we are watching just off the Yucatan Peninsula. Within the next 5 days, there's a 70% chance of development. This is going to move into the Gulf of Mexico, so this is something that Texas, Louisiana, and parts of Mexico definitely want to keep an eye on, and we're going to continue to move down that list pretty quickly. If that system wants to develop very soon in the Gulf, that will be named Joyce. Now let's head it off to Michael for a look at our local.
Yes, thank Brittany. Let's finish off our show going back locally to our region. And as we'll take a look at our current conditions right now, you can see our FSU weather stem cam. The sun is starting to set right now, and it's very warm out there, and it's very humid out there, but pretty typical for the beginning of September here in Tallahassee. Now, the current conditions here in Tallahassee, again, 89 degrees, mostly cloudy skies at the airport, and the reason why it's feeling so warm and humid, we're still getting those southwest winds coming off the Gulf at 6 miles per hour. Temperatures across the Big Bend region, 89 in Tallahassee, 88 in both Thomasville and Bainbridge. The hotspot right now is 91 in Valdosta. The dew points, pretty high dew points still for the beginning of September. 75-degree dew point in both Tallahassee and Quincy. Down towards the coast, 77-degree dew point in Apalachicola. So it does feel very muggy outside. When you combine the humidity and the air temperature, you get these heat indexes close to 100 degrees at almost 6:30 here in Tallahassee, 99 in Tallahassee, 100 down towards Perry, and in the lower 90s up towards Bainbridge and Thomasville. Now, you can see by our wind speed and directions, you can see the sea breeze trying to make its way north into Tallahassee. You can see with those winds coming off the Gulf. Also, we're getting southerly winds in Bainbridge and northerly winds in Thomasville at 5 miles per hour. Satellite and radar, you saw where the winds were on our previous graphic. That's where the sea breeze set up today. And that sea breeze has basically died out at around the 6:30 hour. So it's going to continue to die out as we head into the nighttime hours. We lose that daytime heating. But then we repeat the process as we head into tomorrow. If you want to head out onto the Gulf tomorrow and go on the boat, 92 degrees will be the high out towards the coast. A slight chance of a shower or thunderstorm with those northeast winds of 10 knots, 2 to 3 feet on those seas. Now, for your forecast for tonight, we will have those showers and thunderstorms dissipate overnight, leading to mostly sunny skies in the morning, just like this morning. And then as we head into the afternoon, the daytime heating, as well as the sea breeze, allowed those showers and thunderstorms to flare up once again right along the I-10 corridor, going into Quincy and then off into Mariana. For tonight's forecast, 73 degrees will be your low, mostly cloudy skies with calm winds. And as we go into tomorrow, 92 degrees with a slight chance of a shower or thunderstorm in the afternoon. Winds pretty light coming out of the northeast at 6 miles per hour. In your 7-day forecast, as we head towards the weekend, we do begin to drop those rain chances down to 20 to 30%. Colby, that is because of Florence with those northerly winds bringing in some drier air for us. As a result, our temperatures do heat up into the low to mid 90s.
Well, that'd be a welcome sight, have some lower dew point values there. And as we start to get toward fall, the official fall is September 21st. We'll see the beginning of fall. I know we're in meteorological fall, but we haven't been feeling that around here.
Oh, yeah. We haven't seen any really changes in our pattern. Still a lot of moisture down the southeast. Once we get that first cold front, that's when we'll start to feel the changes. But
definitely
right now, we're not expecting anything major over the next week or so.
Yeah, definitely be nice around here. I mean, we're so used to those afternoon showers and storms, but nothing like what they're going to be experiencing in the next couple of days into the Carolinas and the Mid-Atlantic states.
Yeah, there's another look at our 7-day forecast showing those rain chances actually taking a dip, actually a little bit below average in terms of our rain chances for this time of year.
So definitely keep those afternoon plans flexible. Those will be hit and miss showers and storms, so not complete washouts. And then, but if you're not getting that shower or storm, those temperatures will be up there in those 90s.
Yeah, and still muggy in the afternoon with the in the evening and overnight hours as well, with those lows in the mid 70s. So really, really typical for summertime. But again, we're not expecting much changes in our weather pattern locally over the next week or so.
Well, hey, it's a trade-off. I'll take it. We get the lower rain chances. You can go out and enjoy your outdoors, especially for the weekend. I mean, that's a very welcome sight there, and we do have the like us
so
on
our
Twitter.
social media, follow us on Twitter, twitter.com/FSU Weather. Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/FSU Weather. And
if you're watching us, hopefully you're watching us live here on YouTube, /FSU Weather /live there. And then also send those pics on Instagram. We'd love to show them here on the show. But definitely be careful while you do that. I don't want you out in a severe thunderstorm or out in the lightning. Don't put yourself out in the elements. We want to keep you safe. And for everyone here at FSU Weather, I'm student meteorologist Colby Pope.
And I'm student meteorologist Michael Onnen. We hope you have a great night. And keep sending in your questions if you do live in the Carolinas.